SPANA has just launched a new guide called the Holiday Hooves Guide to promote responsible tourism, especially to support those animals that are used in the tourist trade. SPANA receives dozens of complaints every year from tourists reporting their concerns about the mistreatment of animals that they have used on an excursion or a tour overseas. And our teams across Africa and the Middle East provide free veterinary care to support those animals used in the tourist trade, but we felt something else could be done to highlight the plight of those animals to tourists. In our guide, we highlight the main points that tourists need to be looking out for when they see an animal and choose an animal for a trek or an excursion. We're looking for animals that are in good condition, that do not have any obvious wounds and no signs of obvious lameness or limping. We also ask people to not overload or overwork their animals when they use them on these treks and tours. So animals should not be overburdened. If you're tall and broad, you should be looking for the larger animal that you can find. We also ask that you to reward the animal owners for their respect towards their animals, pay a fair price, and also tell the animal owner why it is that you have chosen their animal for your tour. Tell your family, friends and fellow holiday makers how they can improve the welfare of animals abroad as a tourist. And finally, if you see any examples of mistreatment, then you must report your findings to the tourist board when you get home, and also to your holiday company or holiday representative to encourage them not to use that particular tour provider in the future. And on doing our inspections, we've noticed that there's a mild wound underneath the harness here, so it's starting to rub on the prominent backbone there, and that could become a fairly serious wound. And that's the sort of thing that SPANA is looking for when we're carrying out our inspections on these animals. And as a tourist, you need to be aware that harnesses can cause severe wounds, often over the shoulders, sometimes over the prominent hip bones or on the back. So I'm just coming round to the other horse now to have a look at its partner, and we can automatically see that this animal is in fairly poor body condition. We can easily see its ribs, and it's got a very prominent pelvis here, so you can see its hip bone very prominently. So it's like this horse isn't receiving enough nutrition or nutrition of good enough quality. This is an example of a good horse, and I'm going to tell you why. You can see that it's in good body condition or isn't underweight. You can't see any ribs, or you can't see the obvious hip bones or spine, and that means that it's got a good plane of nutrition. It's obviously got enough food and the owner is feeding it well. I can't also see any evidence of obvious wounds, and obviously these animals are working all day, every day, and some of them wear inadequate harnesses or poor harnesses with poor materials. And I've had a look and I can't see any evidence of any wounds on this animal, which means that this harness fits the animal well and is made from good materials. You can also see that the pack saddle is well padded. Finally, we've seen this horse in motion and we know that this animal isn't lame. It also has good feet with no evidence of any wounds on its legs.
I think SPANA's campaign to look at the health of animals to ensure that people care for them more is commendable.
Well, I'm a supporter of SPANA, and I think this campaign you're doing here, Holiday Hooves, is absolutely brilliant.
Well, for the sake of the animals, it's got to be done.
Any campaign that can prevent an animal being ill-treated, even if it's just one animal, is worth an awful lot.
Well, basically, it's made me think about the conditions these animals are actually kept. And I think that it's our responsibility, that we should be able to do something about it.
The benefits they could bring is to teach the locals how to care for their animals, especially for the use of the public, and make the tourists more aware of what to look for in the conditions of the animals and the way they're treated before they decide to pay the money and get on the ride.
Please look at the animal pulling the carriage first. That would be my message to anyone who was trying to decide whether they should take a ride for whatever reason.
Well, Thomas Cook honestly are delighted to be involved in something like this. It's good for our education in terms of improving our commitment to animal welfare, but also for the locality and for the holiday makers too. So really we're thrilled when we can be involved in something like this. And I think with the information that SPANA can provide to Thomas Cook, and Thomas Cook can then pass on to the holiday makers, that can only lead to a positive change and improvement in the welfare of the animals in resort areas.
We did a survey last year which found that over half of people say that if they saw an animal mistreated on holiday, it might put them off ever going back to that country again. Therefore, it's really important that people read this guide, get the information they need, so they've got the confidence on holiday to say no to using an animal if they think it might be being mistreated.